fit you all perfectly, to fit the Nigerian film industry perfectly. So this is a great opportunity for you, and I hope that you are taking great advantage of it. So I don't know for last week's assignments if you were able to do it. If you were, you can indicate by doing a thumbs up or yeah. Okay. So that's good. And like I said before, please, writing of any kind, whether it's script writing or even novel writing, is about muscle building. I know now we have AI and people are, thinking about how to rely on it. But you also have to know that for you to use AI platforms for writing, you have to be a good writer. A shitty writer will put out a shitty content from AI. That's just the truth. So a good writer will bring out a good content from AI. So you have to master the basics of writing first of all. If not, you're going to have a hard time convincing a studio exec to buy your script or even look at it in the first place. So we have a lot of ground to cover today. And I think the sooner we start, the better it is for us. So today we'll be talking about character and dialogue. Character and dialogue. We're looking at how to understand character and write dialogues for movies. We've been talking about different things in this class. We've talked about story structure, fundamentals of storytelling, and now we're getting into the key part of one of the key parts of storytelling, which is character and dialogue writing. If you remember in the first class, I think I mentioned something like a character Bible, and I think this is where it comes to play. So let's jump into it and learn how to build compelling characters and write cinematic dialogue. Hold on, please. We're trying to. Please give me a few seconds. Let me sort this out. I think I'm having issues with my presentation tab. Okay. Hmm. Okay. My lap. Yeah, it's freezing or something. Okay. So just give me a few seconds. I'm trying to sort out the presentation tab, but yes. So, like I said, if you remember the first class, we talked about character Bibles, how to understand your character. It's one thing to write a story, it's another thing to pledge your characters into full beings that people would watch and understand. One thing about characters is that they are like the soul of films. You know, it's because with them you have visual, you have the visual. They are the ones showing you the facial emotions. They are the ones showing you the body language. They are the ones showing the actions. They are the ones also speaking. So they are really important in storytelling. You cannot, I mean, if you think about or even the folk tales that you have, the characters like the tortoise, the deer, the lion, all these things are characters. They're integral to the story that you are telling. And most stories, they don't have issues. You know, it doesn't most stories don't fail because of bad plots, to put it simply. They usually fail because the character is either one dimensional and just feels hollow. It just feels like this character was not fully developed, you know. And we also have to understand something, that the character must not only be human. If you watch films a lot, you know that there are different kinds of films that have different characters out there. I mean, there are ones you see dogs, cats, birds, you see inanimate objects as characters, those sort of things, houses, haunted houses as a character, that kind of thing. So you have to understand this know why, to know how to use your characters. And one important thing about characters is that it's not just about talking. It's not about having something to say. It's about what they are, the decisions they take, decisions taken to exist in a space, to take up space or to do something. That's what actually makes that character who they are. So what are we going to be looking at today? Like I said, we have a lot to cover, so I might be a bit fast, but please, in if you don't understand anything, take your notes, and at the end of the class, feel free to ask your questions, and I will gladly answer. So we'll be taking a look at you know, how to build a character, how to generate a plot, that is characters whose desires and flaws help produce story events, how to carry a theme. If you remember in the second class, we talked about how themes are really, really important, in storytelling. And a character's journey must embody that story's central question. If you remember, we talked about question, what's the question of this film. Then we also look at the transformation. The character must have arcs that satisfies the audience on an emotional level. So, understanding character. What is a character? Who is a character? A character is a person or force in a story who wants something, faces an opposition, and makes choices that drive the narrative. The audiences watching the film experience these stories through what the characters feel, what they risk, what they sacrifice, and what they decide. Now, understanding the difference between plot and character. Plot is what happens. Character is why it happens. And a good story is built on decisions, not just coincidences. You know, if a character decides I have three roads to take and I decide to take road B, that's road B has to have a reason for it. Just think of it as, I mean, if you want to understand character, if you play video games very well, you understand, how characters are integral to storytelling, because a character makes a decision and it changes the whole outcome of the game. Same thing applies in films. This character is a decision maker. They have to, it's not just about reacting. The person acts, they choose under pressure. They have to choose turning points. And their final, their final selection or whatever choice they've made answers the thematic question. So plot driven versus character driven stories. So when you look at plot driven stories, this is basically the characteristics. Events is happening to a character. There's an external conflict that is dominating. The stakes are physical usually, or could be situational, and the character may not change deeply. So when you think of disaster films, action blockbuster films, I think basically disaster films are, heavily plot driven when you think about it. Then character driven stories, that's where you have stories that arise from a choice, internal conflict, emotional stakes dominate, and transformation is key. And you have this clearly in psychological dramas, age of coming of age films. Um, if you watch the disaster films and want to compare it with a psychological film here, if you think of any disaster film that you've watched, if you think of Jaws, if you think of Jaws, then you think of psychological dramas that you've seen. Try to think of one. Sorry. Trying to come up with one, but I'm going blank here. Then you think of, you know, coming of age films like if you think of, I'm trying to remember this one, Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings. Sorry, not Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Flies. Something golden. Is it golden? Something. Lord of the Flies. Yeah, it's a coming of age film. Nigeria doesn't have that much coming of age film, but you find a lot of coming of age film from America, which is basically exploring a youngster, you know, trying to become an adult or trying to grow up or trying to, trying to become an adult, grow up and, take up more space as someone who, um, can be trusted to make decisions on their own. Now, when you have some stories are able to, merge both successfully. The plots would pressure the character and the character will have to make choices that also shape the plot. And when this plot tests the flaw will create a consequence and the consequences would face growth. Now, I think everyone knows this part, types of characters. In Nigerian palace, you say Bo's an actor, right? Now, in this situation, let's understand it. Who is the Bo? Who is the actor? The actor is the protagonist, the central focus. He's the one with he or she, the one with the main goal, the one that faces the primary conflict and has to make a final decision. Sometimes they're not always the hero. I need you to understand. They're not always the hero, but they tend to be morally admirable. Then you have the antagonist, who is the boss, as you say here, who's an opposing force. Could be a system, could be society, could be nature, could be an internal affair. And they believe they're right. Think Thanos. When you think of Thanos, if you watch Marvel's, you think of Thanos. They believe they are right. Think of Joker. But they often represent the opposite value of the theme. They are on the other side of the theme. That's why they are antagonists. They antagonize the whole theme of the film. Now you also have supporting characters, which are the friends, the mentors, the rivals, the foes. Every supporting character must play a role. Even the wakapas, as we say in Nigeria, must play a role. And that supporting character's role is to create pressure or to support or to tempt or to mirror or to oppose. They can never be decorative. You cannot just put a character there just for the sake of decoration. Now we have four layers of character. We have layer one, the surface, layer two, the social self, layer three, the private self, layer four, core wiring. Now, usually the audience, this is what they fall in love with. Like they fall in love with the surface, what they see, how they look, how they behave, their style, their voice, their habits. Sometimes you're watching a film and we're like, oh God, this lady can dress. Jesus Christ, she can like I love her wigs, I love her shoes and all that. Yes, people tend to fall in love with that. People tend to fall in love with how someone looks, their facial structure, the sound of their voice and all that. That is surface level. Now, but what is going to keep the audience is 2, 3, and 4. How are they performing for others? What's their reputation? What's their role? What's their persona? Do they fear? What do they need? What are they hiding? What do they regret? Now, what are their values and worldview? What do they believe about life? Because at the end of the day, this is what is affecting the surface, the social, and the private self. This layer 4, very important. It affects all these other things. The character engine then. So every character you see, every compelling character that you've ever watched is powered by 5 interlocking forces. We have the external goal, we have the internal need, we have the stakes, we have the opposition, and we have the motivation. What is the external goal? What they want physically, love, what they want from others. Think of it, what they want from others. Just understand that external, what they want from others. Internal, what they want from themselves, what they must learn from what they must learn about themselves from themselves. Stakes. Now, what are the things, physical harm, the heartbreaks, all those things, like the physical harm, the emotional heartbreak, the moral corruption, the social loss? What are the things that if they fail, if they fail to surmount, would increase their risk or increase their loss? Now they have the opposition. There's always an opposition that blocks you. It could be a villain, it could be a system, it could be time, it could be trauma, or even your own flow. Then motivation. What do they want? Now, this is where when we are always watching a film, we say, oh, what's the backstory? Because we understand that the backstory of every character will provide you with motivation as to why they are who they are. Think of it as yourself. What motivates you? If you look back, you see that there are enough reasons as to why you feel motivated to be who you are today. It could be you have someone you admire. It could be you faced a loss. You grew up not privileged. Now you're motivated to make it, or you're motivated to be educated. So everyone has a backstory, and that backstory is what drives them. And is what drives them to seek that external goal from others, is what drives them to seek internal need from others. And it's also what attracts an opposition to them, really. It's also what attracts an opposition to them. So motivation that feels real. Now, when you're creating a character, you have to think, why should this person do this? Why must this character feel the need to do this? I mean, if I go to my village and see that there's no drinking water, and maybe someone in my family drinks, someone buys, pure water, drinks it, and has a very bad sickness, I might be motivated to say, you know what, I'm going to rally the rich people in my village so that we can build a purification system, a borehole and purification system. Now, I've been motivated by what happened in my own home, which is I almost lost someone. The person fell ill by taking contaminated water, and that is it. So you have to give that character a motivation that feels real. That is self-determination theory. People are driven by core needs. What's that need? Autonomy, competence, relatedness. Autonomy is choice and control when you feel threatened. Now, think of me losing someone, not having a relative that falls ill and all that. I felt threatened I felt threatened by that, because the thought of losing this person is enough to wake me up to say, no, this cannot continue. Then competence and mastery when threatened. So when a character feels that they're losing their autonomy, they rebel. When a character feels like their mastery of skill is being threatened, they obsess over it or overwork. When a character feels like their connection or sense of belonging is being threatened, they either cling or sabotage or isolate, these three things. So always remember that there are just these three causes of why a character has motivation. It could be loss of autonomy. It could be the loss of competence. I'm sorry, competence. It could be relatedness. Now, when you're creating your character, you have to think of a personality that is consistent, but not just predictable. Being consistent and not predictable. And how do you do this? You have to look at the big five. It's called the ocean on building a personality pattern. You have to consider openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, neuroticism, neuroticism. Now, think of a perfectionist who is anxious, blunt and controlling. That person has a high conscientiousness. That person is neurotic, highly neurotic, and that person has a low disagreeableness and low agreeableness. Someone who is not agreeable would easily make enemies. Just remember that. Anyone who is not agreeable would easily make enemies. We'll say this person no degree at all, at all. Now, this is a character who you can now say this person second, this person always asks questions. There's a curiosity to this character. So I think of the character like this. I don't know if you watch the series like Bones, the series Bones. You think of the main character, that is Bones herself. Just think of what makes up this character, where she's highly professional in her work, in her forensic work. And when you question her work, it feels as if she has died a second death. And she'll do everything to prove you wrong. And even when she finds out she's wrong, she has a hard time apologizing to you, which you would expect from someone like her. So that means that she's very conscientious in what she does. She's very picky. She's a very detailed person. So when you're creating her character, you're thinking of that. If you've also watched a film like The Big Bang Theory, and you think of the character like Sheldon, you see how this character was created, you know, highly neurotic, which means, he's very selective of even the people around him. And he makes them jump through hoops just for them to stay around him. And then when you look at his friends, you see what makes up his friends. What kind of humans are they? They are agreeable. While Sheldon is not an agreeable person, his friends are agreeable characters. They're just the live and let live kind of people. That's why they are able to exist in that space with Sheldon. That's why they're able to, have discussions with him. And even when they disagree and, they just say, what, just have it. Win. We don't just, winning is not a do or die for us. But for Sheldon, it's a do or die for him. So you look at this character and how he's created. Now, Sheldon is a very consistent character. But sometimes when you can't even predict what he would do. Sometimes you expect him to react to something. And in that moment is where he has a moment of clarity. And he's like, you know what? Not today. So that's what you look for in a character. Now we have Dan Hammond. I think Dan Hammond is a Hollywood writer, a famous Hollywood writer. I think he did I'm trying to remember this animation that was popular. Rick and Morty. I think he was one of the main writer for Rick and Morty. If you've watched that animation. Now he has his own style of creating a story circle for a character. He has a way of designing a character, which is into one, two, three, four, five, six, into six parts. So he creates this character and maps and he creates this character and has a structure to them. And it starts with something. This character must want something. He must want something. This character must be forced into an unfamiliar world. From wanting something, they'll find themselves in an unfamiliar world where they are trying to, get what they want. And they realize this world is so unfamiliar. It's not our comfort zone. So what are we going to do? They learn to adapt. And in learning to adapt, they also try and they achieve their goal. They get what they want. But to get what they want, they have to pay a price. Something has to give. Always remember, something has to give. And when they pay that price, they feel fulfilled. They have done their bits, they've done their own, and they are now in that familiar world with whatever they've achieved. So, characterization techniques. And what is characterization? It's basically how you review a character, how you review who a character is. There are two types: indirect characterization and direct characterization. Indirect characterization shows us, why direct characterization tells us. Now, what are the techniques for these two things? What are the techniques, sorry, for direct characterization? You have true dialogue, what they say, because remember, direct characterization, they're telling us what they say, what they avoid, their tone, their vocabulary, their verbal habits, and true conflicts, how they also behave when they are challenged, what they protect. It tends to expose characters. Sometimes think of yourself. Sometimes people say, "Oh, this person is such a mellow person," but don't touch him or how. Don't go there. Once you go there, they will change because people now realize that this person, as much as they are this human who is mellow and calm, the minute you cross a boundary, they change it for you. Now, for indirect characterization, we have true action, decisions made under pressure, body language, actions that reveal truth faster than words. And we can also see through relationships how they treat people, their subordinates, their authority, strangers, the power dynamics. Think of a film that opens with water into the glass for them and accidentally spills it. And then this character, and then this character that is eating takes up the glass and throws it on the servant. You already know that this person, now weary. You already know this, you just know, ah, this person is not going to be someone that you can chew their ear and swallow. So you've seen it now through their action, how they reacted, and you've seen it now through how they treated their subordinates. So we have 6 character review tools. How to review your character. We talked about characterization, which falls into direct characterization and indirect characterization. Now, how do you review your character? We have 6 tools. Number 1 is choice under pressure. Number 2 is how they treat powerless people. Number 3 is what they do when nobody's watching. Number 4 is what they are willing to sacrifice. Number 5 is their coping habits. Number 6 is their contradiction. So these are the 6 review tools for creating whatever kind of character that you want to create. So the character plot relationship. Remember, we talked about how these two things are very important. If you're able to successfully and masterfully create a character that merges so well with the plot, you're going to create a wonderful story. Because remember, plot is not just things that are happening. Plot is the character pursuing a goal. It's colliding with resistance, making choices. Without that character, your plot will just be, you know, it will just be there. I mean, when you think of Okay, when you even let's say, sorry, if you're a Christian here, you're thinking of the creation of the world, and they say, and the world was created, and this happened on day one, this happened on day two, this happened on day three. Now you have to think of the character behind all these things, making the decisions for all these things to appear. Without that character, these other things have become meaningless. They don't have any sense of direction. Your plot points have to come from character's choices. Really, it has to. If events, if your events are happening to a character very often, and it's happening to them. You know, when they say something happened to you and you're not happening to something, it's happening to them. They are just there. You're in your house and the tsunami came to meet you. You know, it doesn't. It's like, come on. But if you provide, if it lets us know that, there was a warning about tsunami coming, but this character decided to stay put. Now you have a story that is engaging because everybody now wants to know why did they stay put despite the warning that they got. So you always have to review motive and meaning. You always have to build drama and premise around the premise, character, and conflict. For a screen test, you have to ask yourself, what does this character want now? What will they gain? What will they lose? If a character wants nothing or wants nothing, doesn't gain anything, doesn't lose anything, it's basically just making a music video at this point or writing a music video script. Even in music video scripts, people lose and get. I mean, the boy is chasing a girl, he doesn't get her. That's the whole point of us even getting the whole video in the first place. Think of all the music videos from that It's either someone is pursuing someone and does not get it, or he pursues and finally gets it, and he's still worrying that he'll still lose the person that he got, and he's still saying, "Don't leave me." So a character must always want something. Now, relationships. This is where develop character development lives. A character will be defined by who they love, who they fear, who they envy, who they serve, and who they can't forgive, who they are planning to revenge. You have to build this web. You have to create this. That's why I talk about character Bible. You have to create this character that has, this character that has so much going for them, or even so little going for them, but they are willing to move forward. They're willing to move forward because they fear that they're going to lose something, or they anticipate gaining something. Archetypes. Stereotypes, you have archetypes. So archetypes are useful, really, because when you think of what an archetype is, characteristics and all that, but you have to be very careful about it. You have to try not to make, you know, you have to try not to make, like, say, make an arc. So I think you try not to use a stereotype to define an archetype. I think that's basically it. I remember the last day or Saturday you guys were here. There was a character that was raised. They had when they were talking about the Dibia, and all of a sudden, everyone say it has to be the evil one. I mean, yeah, they can, but have you thought of, you know, you're not just why is the Dibia evil? Let's ask that. That's the first question you have to ask yourself. Is it just by nature of because they are Dibia, they are evil? You have to think of, is it their person? What is it about them? Are they angry against the world? Are they out to revenge? Are they out to beguile people, to deceive? You have to think about that before you slap a stereotype on them. You think of the hero's tradition that has popularized roles like the mentor, the guardian, the trickster, the shapeshifter, the shadow, you know. Yes, they have these characters, but you also get to understand why they are who they are. You also get to understand that they are three-dimensional. They're not just one-dimensional. The problem in Nollywood is that we create these one-dimensional characters. You know, you create a character that, yes, this character. I mean, I'm trying to remember a film where you see a character that is so evil, but okay, think of I think the Dalmatians. I think one of Dalmatians, one of the character I've forgotten the American film that owns many Dalmatian dogs. She was evil, but you see her dogs, she don't play with her dogs. Don't even test her with them. She was kind and loving to them. There was this just a position about her character. So you have to be very careful in creating them. That's why I always say backstory helps in building a character for you to understand that this person is who they are, not as a result of just you giving them that tag. You're a creator. I mean, you're a creator. And now, this creator that you're sending out into the world, you have to fortify this person with good or bad. Let them make their decisions on whether they are going to be good or bad and in what moments. Because even as you, as a human being, you're not one dimensional, you're not even two dimensional. In fact, even three dimensional is even questionable. There are so many faces to you. There are so many, you know, there's so many things to you as an individual. So, what are the classic story archetypes? We have the hero, who is a protagonist, usually driven by a goal or mission, and they typically undergo a transformation. Remember Harry Potter, they remember Black Panther, T'Challa in Black Panther. Then you have a mentor, someone who guides the hero, provides wisdom and tools or training. When you think of Star Wars, you think Obi-Wan Kenobi. And the thing about the mentor is when the hero needs them, they are there. They guide. Now you have the shadow villain who is at the opposition. And based on his opposition, you are creating a character that's, like I said, not every opposition can be evil. Because when you think about it, like if you sit down and think of someone like Thanos and you listen to his reason for wanting to snap half of the world out of existence, you will be like, well, actually makes sense. Like, I mean, it makes sense. Some of the villains, when they sit down and logically give you why they want to do what they do, you're going to think of you like, yeah, I actually understand where this person is coming from. So it's not an evil per se. Just understand them that their work there is just to oppose the hero. If the hero is going right, they are going left. If the hero is going left, they are going right. Understand it that way. It's not a thing of slapping evil on it and just calling it a day. No. Then we have the herald. We have someone who announces change or calls the hero to action, person that triggers the story. Like, for example, the letter from Hogwarts when it arrived. You know, in Nigerian films, usually you have this kind of person to be maybe the mother or a friend, or a colleague who will say this is the way they do. Why? Then you have the trickster, the comic relief or disruptor, challenges authority, something like Loki. Nigerian films are actually good with tricksters. If you think of the house helps, the gateman, you know, the kiosk in front of the house and the seller, they usually have this thing where they add someone who says the most random thing. But what they're saying is actually important because that's where most Nigerian films lose it. Whatever they are saying has to be central to the theme of the story, to the plot of the story. You get? Then you have the shapeshifter. That's it, the unpredictable, the person whose loyalty is unclear. This person keeps tension alive because you're wondering, will this person betray the hero? Will they agree to what the antagonist is saying? They keep you. There's this. If you watch Game of Thrones, there's this main character. There's this character that's actually embodied this. I'm trying to remember his name. He embodied it. He was so unpredictable that you don't know what he will do next. Any place you see him, you only have high blood pressure because you don't know whether he's going to contribute to the death of the hero. They have the ally, the sidekick, who supports the hero, who is often emotionally grounded. Sometimes you have the ally and the sidekick. There are sometimes that you have people, you get see stories where sort of they are merged, but you also see some where they are different. You know, a sidekick. Usually, you have this sort of things. A hero film like when you think of Superman, when you think of someone's Spider-Man, someone who helps the character get to get to places, who provide them with information that they need to move to the next stage. Then you have the guardian, someone who tests plot, who tests the hero, blocks progress until the hero is worthy. If you watch Karate Kid, this is perfect. You know, in fact, if you watch Asian films like Chinese films, this is one of this. This is the core fixture in their films, especially where they are doing karate. The sensei, the what's it called, shifu, all those kind of people who are training you. They are training you to face the opposition, and they block the progress until they think you're ready. Sometimes they are in your face, sometimes they are not in your face, but they are there all the same. Then we have the psychological archetype. These ones are more personality based, and they tend to follow more personality patterns that drive character behavior. Now we have 12 here. We have the innocent, we have the explorer, we have the creator, we have the sage, we have the orphan, we have the rebel, we have the ruler, we have the jester, we have the caregiver, we have the lover, we have the magician, we have the warrior. These are types of psychological archetypes of your character. The innocent could be, someone who is pure and optimistic. The explorer is someone who is seeking freedom, trying to be independent. The creator is someone who is imaginative, trying to build something. When you think of there's this latest film, mm, I've forgotten the character, that's based on Frankenstein, sort of. Then you think of the sage, someone who is seeking truth and knowledge. Then you think of the orphan, someone who is relatable, ordinary, seeking belonging. Then you have the rebel, someone who challenges the system and breaks the rules. Then you have the ruler, someone who is leadership oriented and is seeking control and order in a place. Then you have the jester, someone who is playful but uses humor to like cover up and to cope and reveal truth. Then you have the caregiver, someone who's protective, nurturing, and sacrifices for others. Then you have the lover, who is basically driven by relationships and passion. Then you have the magician, who transforms situation, visionary. Is a visionary. Then you have the warrior, who's ready to face any conflicts that comes their way. So these are psychological. Remember, psychological. This is how it affects the way they think. It affects the way they act. Then this affects their motivation outwardly. And then we have the modern film archetypes, the contemporary cinema. We have the anti-hero who is morally flawed, not traditionally heroic. You know, is a hero that, even though that he's worse than the antagonist there, you'll be like, this person no gel at all. They're not they're not heroes. They're not like, oh, they're not the kind of hero that you look at and say, oh, let's make a poster of them. They are someone who, yeah, they've gotten the work done, but on a normal day, this is not someone you want to roll with. They have the tragic hero, you know, someone who has a fatal flaw and whose downfall is inevitable. You really, most times they die in the film. Then you have the femme fatale, which is usually like the where you think of Catwoman. And when you also, they tend to reserve femme fatale for what's it called, for women, but I also think it applies to outcasts, someone who is socially rejected and is struggling for acceptance. And they have the reluctant hero, the person that doesn't want to be in this room, but everybody's like, you're the one that's qualified, or you're the one that can save us. Without you, we cannot do this thing. Oh, please go and wear your boots. This hero is reluctant, but feels pressured into taking up action. Then you have the redeemed villain, you know, who starts evil and then finds redemption. This is the modern film archetype. Before the end of the film, the villain has repented and has seen the light. They have the mentor turned villain. This is where the mentor, you just realize, this person that he's been calling father has been his opposition. He's been the one actually creating the pitfalls and the challenges that the hero is facing. So character design, backstory, flaws, and strengths. If you remember, I talked about backstories and how they are important. I reminded us all that we have backstories. All of us have backstories. If I sit down and ask you what is motivating you, you're going to give me a backstory of your life. And I'm going to see clearly what makes you who you are presently. And the beautiful thing about backstories is that they evolve. As long as you're alive, your backstory will keep evolving. Then we have flaws. We all have flaws. It could be pride, it could be fear, greed, insecurity, naivety, you know. And it's these flaws that creates conflicts. Then we have strength as a strength. I still, this person still give me and go collect. They've drawn a line that they can't cross by saying, I can't steal you. If another person give me and go collect. As long as it's not me that went to steal. That's a moral code. Now, at some point, if you're creating a story, yeah, the drama is now, he now has to steal. He now has to steal directly. So what make them decide to steal directly? And it's that tension that creates the drama. So how do you write flaws properly? And like he's mentioned here, a good flaw is not just about being short-tempered. It's four dimensions that make it generate plot naturally. It has four dimensions. It has the benefits, you have the cost, you have the trigger, you have the root wound. The benefits, why does this flaw exist? What does it protect the character from? If this flaw breaks, what is it going to cause this character? What triggers this flaw to show up? And why does this person have this flaw? What's the backstory to it? So that's how you write your flow. Think of BCT, the R, benefit, cost, trigger, root wound. Then we have character and theme. The character embodies the theme, like we said in the beginning too, and their final decision has to answer the thematic question. Their transformation or failure to transform has to prove that theme. Now, we've talked about character Bible before, yeah? Now, this is a template. So bring out your notes and start jotting down now. To create a character, must have a character Bible. Must, if you want to create a character that is compelling. So bring out your notes and start your journey because this is very important. Their name, their age, their role. Who are they in this story world? You have to state their name, their age, and their role. What is their goal? What are they chasing? What is their inner need? What is their wound? What is the false belief that they have? What is that flaw, benefits, and the costs? Do they have a secret that they're hiding from others? Do they have a tell? When we say someone has a tell, it means that someone has a habit under stress. For example, I know someone that when they are stressed out, they start to rock their right leg. As a tell. Some people they start to itch. Some people they pull their hair. Some people they start to touch their necklace or their wristwatch. Someone has a tell. What's the archetype? Archetype. Is it going to be a positive archetype? Not archetype. This is arc, character archetype. Is it going to be positive? Is it going to be negative? And is it going to be flat? Then what's that final change? What's different? What's that transformation that they're going to face at the end? Then you have your character Bible of every character. Remember, this is not just for the protagonist. This is for the antagonists and supporting characters. Now, what is a character arc? It answers the question of the film. Who was this character and who are they now? This character arc is what helps us see the transformation of a character. We get to see the emotional change. We get to see their shift to worldview. These 5 things, what helps us understand character arc. And why is character arc very important? Emotional impact. You're creating a character that people in the audience will feel connected to. I mean, if a character is just one dimensional from start to finish, there's nothing, I mean, you might as well just paint a wall and video it and let your audience watch. That character has to go through as a character is going through things, your audience is also going through things because they're emotionally connected with this character. And that character arc has to make the story meaningful. It has to help that story. It has to help the plot move. It shouldn't be shallow. It has to also drive the theme. It has to drive, if the theme is action or forgiveness brings freedom, then your character has to struggle with forgiveness. Then this character arc, the way you're going to design this character arc will also determine the dialogue, determine how they speak, to determine their conversation, how it also adds to the plot. So you also have to think about this. If we said I can't do this and final is I'm ready, it has shown a change from someone. Just think of a reluctant hero who tells you I can't do it, I'm not ready, I can't do it, I don't think I'm prepared, and gets to a part and tells you, you know what, I can kick this person, I can do this. You can see that transformation. Now, we have different types of character arcs. We have the positive character arc, we have the negative, we have the flat arc, we have the disillusionment arc. Now, the positive arc, also known as the growth arc, is where we get to see the character grow better, become better. You know, this character starts flawed, he starts out very flawed, you know, selfish, naive, but over time, you get to see this character learn, you know, learn and also grow and become a better person. Then the negative arc is the opposite of that, where a character, that character starts out so well, and then as the character is progressing, they are getting worse. And you're like, what is this? Why don't you have sense? You're just frustrated with this character. Then you have the flat arc, where the character doesn't change much at all. But, you know, they change the world around them. You know, they change the world around them because at this point, their opposition is external, more like, you know, they know who they are. And they're not fighting those who don't know who they are, which is the environment in or you gave an example here, like an activist who inspires a corrupt system to change. You know, the activist knows who she is in the beginning. And part of the story, you know, is going to be, oh, They try to bribe her and all that. They try to take advantage of, maybe they kidnapped a sister, a brother, and try to get her to, recant. But she refuses and says, you know what? I gone to this. Then you have the disillusionment arc, which is also the loss of illusion arc. It's where a character starts out, so with this idealistic romantic view of the world. And, start out thinking, oh, everyone loves me. And then, you're going through the world and you realize people don't love you. It's only your mother that can love you. And even at that, it's even conditional. And then you sort of lose faith and become disillusioned and be like, I mean, if you watch, what's it called? This latest film, American film, I'm trying to remember it. Wicked. If you think of Glinda, if you think of the character Glinda and, had an idealistic view of how people view her. And over time, she realized that, what she thought was adoration was something else. And, over time, you're watching her, you think she's going to be evil. But later we get to see that no, she didn't become evil. She just sort of understood how to play the world better, how to be the kind of person that she's wanted to be. Then we have types of character arc. Okay, I think, yeah, sorry, we mentioned this. That's it here. Um, Under it, we have the belief growth, the moral stasis, the moral growth. So you have the positive and negative falls under the belief growth, then the flat arc and the solution, moral direction. I think all of them actually are lines the same, to be honest. If you think about it, they all reflect the same thing. A positive character that has to confront and grow, a negative character that has to succumb to corruption, and you know, the moral direction has to take a different path, and a character that has to, that feels the solution with the environment or what has been presented before him or her, and decides, you know what, I'm going to live this world on my own terms. So you have to understand these things to build that character that's strong. So how do you write a good character arc? It's simple. What does that character believe? What's that lie that the character believe? What is that truth that the character needs to learn? What internal conflicts do they face? And what are the gradual changes? Not instant to it shouldn't be magic. What are the gradual changes that we see over time with the protagonist, with the antagonist? And what is the defining choice of this character? What is the defining choice of this character? Then we have the simple arc structure formula. So we have the character arc, then this is the structure formula. And every character has to go through these 4 stages, which is the beginning, the middle, the climax, the ending. The beginning is where they have a flawed belief, a defensive behavior. The middle is where a conflict exposes their flaw, their emotional pressure increases. The climax is where they are forced to make a choice and they have to transform. And the ending is where this new behavior now reflects a new belief. So we have examples here of positive arc, negative arc, and we have a mini scene here. A journalist has a proof on her phone. Police demands it. She can delete it to save herself or upload it and destroy her safety. Now she has a choice, and this choice forms the basis of this story. This choice becomes a character that you can feel. Now, for positive arc, what does she want? To expose corruption. What's her need? To stop seeking approval and trust her instincts. What's her flaw? Hesitation, that is not being decisive. What's the opposition? A powerful system and fear. What's the ending? Choosing truth despite sacrifice. Then what's the negative arc here? Fame. Does she want fame? Uploading it is going to give her fame. What's her need? What's the need here? Humility. Does she need to learn humility? What's the flaw here? Envy. Does she feel envy for who and for what? What does she stand to gain in the end? And what does she stand to lose in the end? So what are the common character writing mistakes that we have? We have one, a perfect protagonist who doesn't have any flaw, who doesn't have any tension. I recall one time I wrote, when I was starting to write scripts, I wrote a script and gave a friend to review. And she asked me, she said to me, Madam, even enjoyed they get flaw. Because my character had no flaw. And she had to remind me that even an angel has a flaw. So a character cannot have any flaw. Sorry, must have a flaw. That's what helps you move the plot along. And your antagonist, that's the boss, should not be a weak person. That's your antagonist should have, and I talked in the beginning how you sometimes you watch some antagonists and they give you reason for why they are doing what they do. And you that is watching it, you're like, yeah, it actually makes sense. I agree with them. It makes sense. A weak opponent will make a hero's victory meaningless because you're like, why? I mean, this person no could do you anything now. Why this person no do much? Why are you killing this person? Then decorative supporting characters. Yes, in films, they are what we call extras, but extras also serve a role. But when you're having supporting characters in a film, they must serve a function. They're not going to be decorative. They're not just going to be, sitting there. Let's say, think of a series like Friends, where you have the how many friends? Six friends, and they're always in this bar. Now, these six friends, they have supporting characters that follow them. They have their ex-girlfriends, their ex-boyfriends, their parents, their siblings. They're supporting characters that serve a function, either to annoy them, either to eliminate certain things, either to bring out their flaw, trigger their flaw, either to, they are there to serve a function for these characters, be the protagonist or the antagonist. And then you having characters that are just reacting instead of deciding. Your characters should be active. They shouldn't be passive. They shouldn't just exist just for the sake of, they shouldn't just look, extras are extras. Extras are just fill the seats. So your character should not, main character and supporting character should not be a seat filler. They should have things that they react to. Now, when your character does not have any transformation, that's why I said that one-dimensional character from beginning to end. There is no arc. Then what's the point of it? Why are we here to watch this person? Then identical dialogue voices. Every character must sound distinct. That's why we talked about the character Bible. Every character must sound distinct. When you're creating a character, you have 5 characters on a table. They must have their distinctions, things that make them different, that sound different. One person might be, it's even as simple as someone having an accent. Well, that accent has to be integral to the storyteller and to the character. It's integral as someone not knowing how to speak English, or a character doing R and L, a character missing past tenses and all that. You have to be very deliberate with your character voices. They must be distinct. So we have a practical activity now, building a character profile. So we're going to do this exercise now as quickly as possible. Complete this profile for a character you're developing. Every field should be answered before you write a single scene. Identity. Give me a character, give me a name, give me age, give me their background, give me their goal and their needs, give me a conflict, give me an arc. We're going to do this under, I'll give you all 5 minutes to do it. So write a character profile right now, a character Bible, based on what you're seeing on the screen. I give you 5 minutes. This is 5:09. I want to see what you're typing. I want everyone to participate in this, please. Everybody. Because it will let me know that you understand what I'm teaching here. No one is doing the activity. Why? Are you people in this class at all? The question. So look at the screen. We have a practical example activity now. I need all of you to give me a character Bible, a character profile. A character, give me an identity, give me goal and need, give me conflict, give me arc. If you look at the screen, you can see the practical activity. So have I been talking to myself? Is that what has been happening? Did you people just join the class, then put your phone one side and say that I should just be talking? Because clearly that's what has been happening. Okay, oh, you're typing. I'm waiting. Remember, identity, name, age, background. What is this character's goal? What's the external goal? What's the internal need? What's their main fear? What conflicts do they face? What's their fatal flaw? What antagonistic force do they face? And what are the stakes if they fall? And what is their character? What's their main strength? Just in identity, Michael, identity Chika, living in a village. Okay, that's a start. So, I mean, if you don't understand character Bible or character profile, I wonder how you're going to start writing. I have to be honest with you guys. I'm not happy with you because it means all this thing I've been saying. I'll just be talking to myself. Not even one person has given me anything concrete. I'm just only getting identity, identity, identity. Okay, I have someone. We have Tunde Adeyemi. Okay. Oh, that's wrong. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Now looks as if to say you people are not in class as I'm teaching. This is a keep it coming. This is interesting. EJ Tunde Adeyemi. Yeah. We struggle to find stable work while trying to build a better future. Mm-hmm. To feel her career, I want to find love. Men fear, family pressure. Okay. Now you're giving me hope. I was worried I was just talking into the air. All right. I gave people 5 minutes and that 5 minutes has elapsed. So good to see that you guys are following. And I'm going to continue with the class so that we can finish on time. Oops. Mhm. Why this thing not? Okay, so we are going to writing dialogue for movies, a master guide. So what are the foundations of a movie dialogue? Dialogue in films is basically spoken word or even meaningful silence that's also used as dramatic action. It's a real conversation that is full of filler, full of something that's, information that will help drive the plot. A film dialogue is mostly compressed and purposeful. And this core principle says that dialogue is action because characters use words to get what they want. However, if an emotion can be shown visually, show it and save the dialogue for only what dialogue can do. The purpose of dialogue is not just to talk, it's to reveal, it's to create conflicts and to change scene. The goal is never just about information, it's dramatic pressure. So in a nutshell, what are the functions of a dialogue? It reveals character, it creates conflict, it reinforces theme, it advances plots, it delivers exposition, and it builds tension. Now, what's the relationship between a dialogue and a theme? A theme has to be felt, not preached. You have to allow philosophical conflicts, two characters representing opposing beliefs, to carry out the theme. Embed your theme subtly in conflict. Use theme-stated moments lightly, a line that hints at the lesson. Let your characters argue opposing values. Avoid speeches that explain moral and characters talking like the writer instead of humans. As there are films where you watch and it feels as if the character was designed to just talk to the audience. It's not engaging with other characters in the film. It's more or less talking to the audience. And I don't mean the breaking the fourth wall. That's a different technique. That's a different listening technique. And it's special in its own. But in the regular dialogue, it has to flow like two normal people talking. And it has to be something that provides information that helps drive the plots. It's not just, oh, I provide it for you. It has to drive the key thing has to drive the plots. We talked about that character voice and distinction, how you must distinct the voices of your characters. Remember, you are the one writing them. But at this moment, you're creating 5 different people. You're not creating identical twins. You're creating individuals with different demons, with different angels, different motivations, different demotivations. So they have to sound different. For example, if I'm watching a film and if I'm watching a film and I leave to enter the next room and another character enters, I would know that another character has entered, even when I'm not seeing the screen. It's not just about just the voice, but even the way they deliver, even the way they talk, there's a distinction in what they deliver. A character is designed, you look at the vocabulary level, how they speak. There's sometimes you see characters that speak very simply, and sometimes you see characters that speak grammar, like proper English, quiz English grammar. Then you see characters that are educated and not educated. I mean, if you're going to show a lawyer, the way a lawyer is going to speak is going to be quite different from the way a tout is going to speak. Then emotional baseline. We already know what a character feels like, you know, what's their emotion like? What's the emotional baseline like? Are they always angry? Are they always upset? Do they always anytime they're on screen, they're aggressive? Are they always calm? That sort of thing. Then the rhythm and the pace. What's their rhythm like? What's their pace like? Are there characters that are fast, that are slow in speaking? Are they characters that ramble, just mumble their words? The culture and language flavor. This is where the Wazobia thing comes in. Pidgin, Igbo, Yoruba mix where relevant. And they're characters that would speak different languages or know only one or know two and using it when needed. I mean, if you show a lawyer who is going to do investigation in a slum and she goes there and starts speaking Queen's English, you already know how she'll be received. But if you say this character can also speak pidgin, this character can blend as a result of their upbringing. They also grew up in the slum. You see how key it is in designing your character. Then what's their verbal habits? Do they use catchphrases? Do they use fillers? Are they sarcastic? You know, these are the things that make your characters distinct. So I can see someone has been raising hand. Okay. Interesting. Hold on, please. Let me sort out. Don't know what's wrong. Sorry, took you far. Okay. So we have the voice contrasts. And we have a quick example here. When a boss says, submit the deliverables by 4, and the editor casually says, Oga, 4 p.m. is wicked now. Make it 6. Let's be human. Same topic, different voices, and the contrast shows you who the boss is. It shows you the culture without any line describing who is who here. Now we have natural versus cinematic dialogue. I remember we said film dialogue must feel purposeful, must be focused on the conflicts and the stakes. Now you think, greetings, hello, good morning. You think repeated points, it makes small talk that doesn't build tension. You add long explanations that don't help. A film dialogue has to be tightened. It has to remove all filter. It has to be purposeful. It has to be focused on the conflicts and stakes. So when you want to write a cinematic dialogue, what is it like? It's not just about words. It's about the character. It's about the conflict. It's about the emotions. It's about the power, you know, compressed into a spoken word. And when it's done well, you get to know more about a character. You get to understand what drives the story, even the plot. You get to understand how it drives it forward, how it creates the tension that the story needs. Is what makes the audience stick with you. When a script is poorly written, you have a lot of people rolling their eyes because it's clear that this is an amateur work, and you lose the audience. That's the worst part of it. Cinematic dialogue reveals a character. It drives conflict and it creates emotion. Every line tells us who this person is, what they fear, what their desire is, what their worldview is. Even when there is character clash, we get to understand, we get to see how they negotiate, how they fight for what they want. And we see how the right words at the right moments can make the audience feel very deeply. Whoever is scratching this thing on the screen, I beg, stop now. So what is subtext? We've talked about subtext, I think, in the first class. This is the engine of cinematic dialogue. Text is what is said. Subtext is what they mean or what they're trying to say. When a dialogue feels flat is because there's subtext missing. And we have an example here. Nice shoes. Someone looks at the shoes and be like, nice shoes. You give them the side eye, like, is that a compliment or not? Because somehow you can hear the subtext under the nice shoes. Then you have a subtext in action where someone is jealous without saying I'm jealous. You have nice photo, new car. Yeah, finally. Hmm, must be nice when people help. You can hear exactly what she's implying. She did not say, I'm jealous of you. She just made you realize that this person is a bad belly. Person is a jealous person. So that's what a dialogue should you do. It should reveal a character without being on the nose. It shouldn't just be direct in our faces. Yeah, then I talked about on the nose. So avoid on the nose dialogue. What is an on the nose dialogue, if you ask? I'm angry because you betrayed me and stole the money from my business last year. That doesn't make sense. Like, are you doing public service announcement? But when you think of a subtext, it goes, so your rent got paid recently this month. Why are you talking like this? I'm not. I'm just admiring your breakthrough. You can see how this person delivered what they delivered without calling the person a thief. You can see the difference. You know, she didn't call her business partner a thief. She just noted something. Hmm. So your rent got paid quickly this month, huh? Why are you talking like this now? I'm not. I'm just admiring your breakthrough. You can see the difference. Than I'm angry because you betrayed me and stole the money from my business last year to pay your rent. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't create any tension. It doesn't, it's just there. It's just as if they just spat on a wall. That's just what it is. Now, how do you write an emotional dialogue? Because emotional dialogue works best when it's indirect. You know, you're angry without saying I'm angry. You're scared without saying you're scared. You want to say I love you without saying I love you. And what are you going to be looking at? You're looking at restraints, you're looking at escalation, you're looking at contrast, you're looking at vulnerability. Restraint is you holding back what you really feel. Escalation is because you're holding back what you really feel. This tension is building to something bigger. And then you have one character that is calm and the other one emotional. And then you have the vulnerability, leaking despite resistance. You love someone, but you don't want to tell this person because tell them you love them, their head they touch. But because you have not told this person that you love them, they start to act one kind, start to cause problem, start to, give you attitude. Now you're the calm one, and that person is very emotional now because, I mean, she has told you she loves you, and you just chested it, you just acted like nothing. And now conflict has arisen. Now you realize I don't want to lose this person. I might as well just say it. I might as well just be vulnerable. I don't like being vulnerable to people. I don't like saying I love you because the last time I said I love you in primary school, the girl laughed at me and got her friends to laugh at me. But now I have to swallow my pride. I have to be vulnerable and tell her I love her without 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 anything. And then you do. So you see how the emotion is built and how it's going to create, how it's indirect and how it's going to create a character, how it's going to show different things about this character. Conflict through dialogue. If, well, it's not necessary that if both characters agree easily, the scene will die. There's a nuance here. However, remember when you're telling a story, there has to be a force, there has to be an opposing motion, an opposing thing. You would see where a supporting character is agreeing with the character, but you will never see an opposition that is antagonist agreeing with the protagonist. You would never see that. And there are different kinds of dialogue conflicts. There are the arguments, there are the verbal struggles, there are the threats, there are the ultimatum, there's the persuasion and manipulation, there's the passive aggressive lines, and the strategic silence. Now we have an example here, a romantic tension. You always disappear when things get real. That's not true. It is. You're here, but you're not here. So if I stay, you will see me properly. Good. That's the whole point. So you can feel the tension here. You can feel her calling him out, and you can feel how he responds, and you can see how she responds. There is a conflict here. Two lovers having an argument, and you can see how they are able to walk through this argument. Now, you have to also consider writing memorable lines. In fact, memorable lines are kind of what makes a story sticks out. One way of to make your story stick out. When you think of some of the, some of the memorable lines from film, like when you think about when you want to shoot, don't talk. I don't know if anybody can guess where that comes from. When you want to shoot, don't talk. It's one of the most popular film lines. I'll see if anybody can figure out where it comes from. Now that film was done in I think 70s or even early 80s. But most people who are millennials who watched like westerns, once they hear that line, they know the film that it came from. So quotable lines, they can be very. It has to be, it has to be part of what helps the story move along, the plot move along. It doesn't have to be, it shouldn't be cliche, in fact. It has to be part of that character. I mean, when you think about like Sam Loco and some of the things he says, when you think of Chinwetalago and some of the things he says in films, things he says, you even Nkemo and Pete Doche, you know, how they use proverbs and it's not off. It's central to the story, central to them as a character. You get? You're not going to see one tout in a distance delivering an elder level kind of proverb. You get? It's it fits them, it fits the character. And that's why it sticks. Because when you're going to be using it, when an audience member, when the audience hears it, it's one of the lines that sticks to them, and it's one of the things that makes them remember the character. Like when I said, when you want to shoot, don't talk. I know exactly the character that said that. It has to be simple, not superfluous. Don't use big grammar. It has to be emotionally loaded. That's why Proverbs always works every time. It has to be specific. rooted in that character's world. It has to be rhythmically clean. As it has to flow right. Just think of what I said. When you want to shoot, don't talk. I mean, it could be a rap line easily. So, and it shouldn't be understated. Let it not be something that announces itself. Because when this quote was said, when you want to shoot, don't talk, the character was the one of the antagonists was inside. Was it the this thing was inside the having a bath inside the bathtub, but he was talking to another character who was a bad guy who did not know that he had a gun inside. And he was just talking. And the guy just, this thing where you're watching a film and you've gotten to the character. Kuku shoot the character, you start to talk, talk. And at this point, this thing was irritating the other character that he just brought out the gun and shot him. And when he shot him, he said, when you want to shoot, don't talk. So even though I watched this film when I was, I think, maybe around 10, 11 years, I still remember that line. And whenever I remember it, I remember the scene, I remember the characters, even though I've forgotten their names. So it's a memorable line that stuck with me for years. Now use action instead of dialogue. Replace explanation with behavior. Now, when you think of even like real life, think of when your mom annoys you and you want to walk out of a room, but you cannot tell her, you cannot speak back to her, you cannot like talk back to her in a bad way. So the best thing you can do is to just bang the door. Bang! And she call you, come back here. Is it me you're banging the door on? Clearly, because what did you do? You use action to show your emotion. And the same thing applies in this. You always need to figure out where would I use an action to show an emotion that I don't need to like come and announce to everyone that I'm angry. Sometimes you're watching a film where a character comes in and starts to scatter everywhere. Starts to scatter, just throw things, and then breaks down and start crying. And this person is upset to a point of violence where they are now taking it out on the external environment. You also have where you see someone who did something and is being asked, did you do it? And you say, no. And you can tell from the person's behavior, the way they are looking, eye contact, the way they are shifting eyes, that they are guilty. Think of even some of the films you watch when a hostage is being held and the police officer is signaling to the hostage, like blinking. And the hostage is trying to understand, okay, why is he blinking? I realize he's actually telling me something. And you understand, you watching it as the audience member knows that the police officer is telling the hostage something by blinking. And the character understands it that way. Now, the police officer is not saying, jump out of the way or bend. He's passing a message without saying much word. And these are visual cues. These are actions that you use without dialogue. Then beats and silence, where real emotion lives. So when you read a script, you see where they wrote beats. It comes up a lot in scripts. It shows an emotional shift, a tiny emotional shift, where someone has a millisecond to think, recalculate, or change a tactic. There's a pause there, there's a silence there, and that silence is a dialogue. Think of the example that was used there. Did you take it? That pause is loud. That means you took it. It's simple. The silence amplifies suspense. Even when the character audience knows something that the character doesn't. So when you're reading a script and you see beats, you already know that's what's happening there. Now use rhythm and pacing. You have to control the tempo like music. The length and speed of lines has to create emotional textures. Think of short lines, think of longer lines. They all have purposes. Short lines are like tension, danger, urgency. Even think of yourself, so when you're talking to someone and the person is giving you monosyllabic lines, like, so how was your day? fine. Did you do anything interesting? No. Did anybody look for your trouble? No. Did you look for anybody's trouble? No. It shows you there's a tension there. Like this person doesn't want to talk. But when the person use longer lines, engages, and is like, how was your day? Oh, it was fine. I really had a great day, you know. I had a great lunch and it made my day, my colleague, you know, it opens up things, but it has to keep things inside. It's not just about rambling. If you're going to use longer lines, it has to reveal a lot about the conflict. Then you have fast exchanges, which can be comedic. You know, you say, you respond. Someone says something, the other person responds, and all that. Sometimes it's funny. You know, sometimes it also shows you energy. Sometimes it shows you there's pressure. Like, who is going to turn off this tap? I don't know. I'm trying to do it. You're not doing it well. You're not doing it well. You're trying to do it. There's this fast action going on, showing that pressure. Like, it's a high stakes scene. So they need to turn off this valve and they don't know what they're doing. And there's that fast exchange. Do it, I'm not doing it. So it creates it there. And then there's the pause where that has that weighty thing. You know, someone says something, that person does not respond. Then you have the interruption where someone is talking and that person takes over to show dominance or like, you know, to show dominance. Sometimes it's also a tool for desperation. Then you have repetition. When something is repeated, that means that it has a point in the film and it's being used for an impact. Then understanding dialogue and genre. You need to understand different genres of stories because it's going to inform a lot about your dialogue. You think of a thriller, you think of a comedy, you think of a drama, you think of a romance, you think of a satire, you think of a psychological, you think of an action. The dialogue that accompanies each of these thriller is different. Now, dialogue structure within a scene. This is where you have to ask yourself questions before you even write a dialogue. You have to understand your scene first because understanding your scene gives you the tool to know how to structure the dialogue. What is the goal of this scene? Who wants what right now? Who has power and what? And what tactic is each person using? What changes at the end? These are the 5 questions you need to ask yourself when you want to write a dialogue within a scene. And what is the goal of this scene? Is the goal of this scene to reveal a secret, to force a decision, to create tension, to shift power, to test loyalty, to break trust, to deepen a relationship, or to trigger a conflict? Once you understand these things, it's easier for you to sketch your dialogue. Weak scene is 2 friends talking about the weather and life casually, nothing. It doesn't add anything. Then the strong scene is where they're discussing life and we get to learn that someone is secretly betraying the other. You know, different goal, different tension, different lessons. Like we said, who wants what right now? Who wants forgiveness? Who wants control? Who wants approval? Who wants to hide a secret? Who wants money? Who wants respect? These are the things you have to ask. Who wants what right now? And you have to define what each person wants. Then who has the power and why? Who has the information that other people are seeking? Who has the status here? Who has the money? Who has the emotional leverage? Who has the moral authority? And who has the social influence? Don't worry, just keep it. Is that one code? Is that code? So who has what here? That's what you have to ask yourself. Because understanding who has the power also informs how you're going to write the character's voice, the character's tone and all that. Is going to define that a lot. And what tactics is each person using? Is someone begging? Is someone threatening? Is someone flattering? Is someone guilt tripping? Is someone lying? Is someone trying to seduce? Is someone intimidating? Is someone appealing to logic? Is someone staying silent? Is someone playing superior? Is someone playing a victim? So you need to understand these tactics and use it to define your dialogue. Now, what changes at the end? At the end of this dialogue that you've crafted, what is going to change? Will a decision be made? Will a secret be revealed? Will a trust be broken? Will relationship alter or a power reverse? Will emotion shift? So you have to understand these things, beginning, middle, climax, and end. These arcs define your dialogues, they have to help define the arcs. And if you don't understand what is the transformation that is going to happen, the change that is going to happen in each scene, then you're going to be writing until you realize you've written more than 2 pages and you haven't even provided any information that can help your story move along. So why do these 5 questions matter? They matter because if you skip them, your dialogue becomes random, your characters starts to sound the same, the scenes start to feel too long and boring, and the conflict just feels too contrived, too artificial. Like you're just forcing the conflict to happen. However, if you answer them, your dialogue becomes very sharp, the subtext emerges naturally, and the power shifts feels very organic, and your characters start to feel very real. And when they feel real, that means that your audience can connect with them. So a dialogue scenes engine, a wants plus the obstacle. When a character has clear wants, the dialogue will become the action, not chatter, not just it's the dialogue. The heart, that's the heart of the believable dialogue. Now we have an example here. Ada wants her brother to confess he stole money. Brother wants to avoid blame. The character obstacle here is pride plus fear of consequences. How will this dialogue write itself? Now here, you have to ask yourself, what do each character here want? What's stopping them? What tactics are they using? Now, exposition. How do you handle exposition like a professional? So to understand the exposition, you have to understand that every story has a past. And exposition is how you bring that past into the present. Exposition. It's how you bring the past into the present without having the need to stop the story and start doing many flashback. The reason that there are films you watch and the flashbacks they do, they're not necessary. Really, they are not really necessary. But if you are able to get, if you're able to get and master this skill, you will find that you can easily expose a lot without employing the tool of flashback. It's the information that the audience needs to understand the story. Who are these people? What happened? What's at stake? And what world are they living? So what is exposition? It's information the audience needs to understand. We've said that before. And what you have to understand is asking the question, who are these people? What happened before now? What is at stake? What are the rules of this world? What relationship exists? What problem are we dealing with? This is where your character profile, character Bible comes into play because it's supposed to provide the information that would help you with your exposition. If you give too little, your audience is confused. If you give too much, your audience is bored. Now, exposition can be difficult. Why? Because the characters already know the problem. They know the problem. So saying it out can feel a bit fake. It can feel like they are just informing an audience. They're just explaining things that both of them already know. I mean, I shouldn't be explaining, in a character shouldn't be explaining what someone already knows. Exposition is supposed to show, is expose. That's why I say expose. Expose what one character does not know. And the trap here is that usually the script writers tend to talk through characters. They talk through the characters. They start to wear the shoe of the character instead of giving that character its individual personality. And the audience they are smart. They want to discover things. They want to, it's just like listening to gossip. They want to discover things. They don't want it explained. Then the pacing. If you dump the exposition, like it's when you dump the exposition and it kills the tension. So you have to learn how to pace. It's like knowing when to feed your bird. You have to know the timing to feed this thing, when to drop this story, when to drop the backstory. Because how will it be integral to the rest of the story? Now, what are the wrong ways to handle exposition? Direct information dump, emotional recap dialogue, that is repeating, telling us what has happened before, the doctor explanation scene, the confession monologue, you know, there is no drama, I killed him because your father cheated my father in 1992 and took our land. Do you even see do you hear how it sounds? Do you hear how it sounds? It's just too convenient, as if you just wanted to I'm tired of writing. Let me just come up with this thing here and rest. That's how it feels. So how do you handle exposition? You show and don't announce. Instead of saying, you left me 10 years ago, you show it where she sees his passport stamp and she shakes her head and says, 10 years. You also have using conflict to reveal an information. As you know, we are business partners. As who knows? Did the person forget that they were a business partner to you? You invested 5 million in this company and now you want to walk away. It shows that this person has a stake in that company. It shows that their relationship is just more than what you thought before. Business partners. Then you have used visual exposition. Remember, film is a very visual medium. You can have pictures that shows that someone is dead. You can show an eviction notice. And sometimes you see films, they pan their camera to a table where you see different envelopes, and you see one that has confidential. You see one that has quick notice. These things are mediums to speak and tell the audience something without one person coming there to say something. I mean, imagine someone just comes and removes a wedding ring. It means that there's conflict. This person doesn't want to be married anymore. She didn't come to say, I am now removing this ring because I don't want to be married to you. You see how it sounds? Now use subtext. Instead of saying, you betrayed me, said, you were busy that night. You didn't have my time that night. You see how it sounds? Instead of, you betrayed me. You said, you were very busy that night. You didn't have my time that night. It shows the conflict clearly. When you needed this person, that person was not around. Now, how is the correct way to handle exposition? You break the exposition into pieces. Don't dump everything at once. You have to review gradually. Remember, mystery is what keeps attention. The more people are looking out for more, the more they sit down to watch your film. That's why you see why people watch. That's why when we watch episodes, series, because of the cliffhangers, they know how to build this mystery that makes you come back for season 1, season 2, season 3. Some of you haven't watched films that have gotten up to season 12 because of the craft of exposition. Then don't allow your characters reveal every information. Let information not be pa 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 pa. You get? Then use your environment as your backstory. Let your character, your set design, the prop, everything that you're going to put on the environment. Let everything you're going to put on the environment speak to the character, speak to the plot, speak to everything. If a film starts and I see a photo that is instead of it facing me, it's placed upside down, I'll be curious. What's behind that picture that instead of him showing us, he turned it upside down? It's facing the wall. Mm. So, what are the quick checklists we have here for proper dialogue? We have to bear in mind, does the character have a goal in the scene? Is there a subtext under the words? Are you avoiding obvious on the nose lines where they don't belong? Does each of your characters sound different? Can you cut out 20 of the lines and the scene still works? Always check for this. So what does good dialogue do? It's not just about people talking about what they feel, it's about people doing things in words. People pushing, hiding, persuading, testing, attacking, seducing, escaping. And what are the key takeaways here? The character equals the decision maker. Plot is what happens and character is why it happens. You build the engine. What is the word? What is the need? What are the stakes? What is the opposition? What is the motivation? Then you layer the character. What is the surface here? What's the social? What's the private? What's the core wiring of this person? Then the arc, they end the arc. So what transformation is going to come out from this character that you've layered? You know, what are the pressure points? What are the choice points? Then what are the flaws and strengths that are helping this character, that are, taking away from this character or helping this character? What is the root wound? You know, for dialogue, we remember that dialogue is action. And every character for every word they use, they're using it to get what they want. It's taking them a step closer to their goal. And also remember that subtext is everything. A flat dialogue that misses the subtext is flat. Every character must sound different. And always have a scene engine first. The obstacle, the tactics before writing a single line. Then remember, silence is also a line and must be employed properly to build tension. So, my dears, ladies and gentlemen, we have done fundamentals of storytelling, structure of storytelling, and we've done character and dialogue. We've given you the core basics of what it takes to write a proper script. And I also know you've learned formatting. So now that you've learned all these things, please go ahead, use the tools, build your characters, write dialogues, do beautiful things, write wonderful stories. See, I'll be so happy to watch a film and get to learn that whoever wrote it was this class. Honestly, I'll be so happy to hear that because it shows the impact of this class was achieved. So now we have a short sample movie scene that demonstrates character, voice, subtext, conflict, dialogue. We have the interior of a small edit suite at night. There's a timeline on the screen, which means there's a computer, and Ada is editing. Her headphone is on. She's focused. A door opens and Ozo comes in with a calm authority. You're still here. Well, the file won't edit itself. Ozo sees her phone is face down. So you've been ignoring my calls. I've been working. Same thing you said last time. You can feel the tension here. How they use the dialogue to show the tension. Then there is a beat. Remember what we said a beat does. And that keeps cutting. Click, click. What do you want? Your cuts before you ruin it. You mean before I tell the truth? Ozo steps closer, lowers his voice. You don't understand the kind of people in that footage. Ada stops, removes one ear cuff. I understand enough to know you're sweating. Also places a flash drive on the desk like a weapon. Replace the timeline with this version. What's on it? Peace. Ada looks at the drive and sees final, final, and she laughs. Peace has too many versions. And also leans in and says to her, Ada, please, please. And now this please is different. You see how he came in with calm authority. And he has seen that this Ada will not budge. And now he has to beg and say, Ada, please. Ada looks at him a long bit, which is, there's a moment here. If I do this, Ozo, you owe me a name. A name? Yes. Who ordered it? And there's silence. In this silence, you get to see that Ozo is trying to make a decision here. He picks up the drive. You're brave. Nope, I'm tired. Ozo leaves. Ada flips her phone over. There's a missed call from Ada. Her breath catches, cut to black. So you see how this works. Everyone wants something. There's a subtext, the truth versus the peace. There's a power shift from his calm authority to Ada, please. And we have the exposition hidden in the conflicts, the high stakes. There are important people involved in this thing, and if he gets exposed, Ada is in trouble. And the ending now raises a question. Why is Ada calling herself? Because you can clearly see that Ada is scared. So, questions. We've come to the end of this class. And this is my last class with you. And I hope that you've learned something. I hope that I've sparked, imagination in you. I hope that I've sparked imagination in you. And that I'm going to be seeing your scripts in the future, nearest future. And that I'm going to be hearing that one of you has a blockbuster in the cinema. So if you've got any question, you're free to ask now because this is the last day you're going to see me in this class. Yeah, so script writing no be more. Oh, Gajiku, you're right. It's not more. I agree. That's why I said it's a muscle you have to build. If you don't watch films, if you don't read, if you don't watch films, if you don't even read other people's scripts, my dear, you're going to struggle. So if you've got any question, please feel free to ask. And thank you to everyone who participated in the practical activity. I can see what you've written and they are good. And it's good to know that you people were online because at some point I thought you left your phones and just went to eat swallow. That's what I thought. So good to know that you guys are online. And yes, for the person who identified the film, yes, that is the classic Western movie, the good, the bad, and the ugly. If you want to shoot, don't talk. It's one of the most memorable line in film history. Okay. If you've got any question, please ask a direct question. If you tell me a bit clearance on dialogue, I don't know exactly what dialogue is much. What exactly do you want me to address? That's what I want to know. Say, are we going to be empowered? Are we going to be empowered by the training? That's a question I should be asking you. I mean, If you are here and you're not empowered by this training, my dear, I don't understand. I really do not understand. So I'm trying to pick out the questions, conversation. So someone says identifying a film arc. Now you won't say, please don't use the word film arc because in a film you see different arcs that helps the plot move forward. If you say film arc, like which one? What is an arc, first of all? That's the first question you have to ask yourself. We talked about character arc. That's what we talked about, a character arc. And we said a character arc is in that moment where they take a decision or they do something that changes from who we knew them to be before. They've become a different person. A character arc. They've taken a decision or taken an action that makes them different from who we knew them to be when we started watching them. It's just as basic as that. Please, Timothy, don't feel overwhelmed. Do not feel overwhelmed. See, let me give you an expo. All you need to do is this. Do you see this script now? This you have access to this PDF, this document. Now you tell yourself, today, I want to learn dialogue. Put a film on. Look at your script, your resource notes. What are the points you want to learn from dialogue? Pay close attention. How is their dialogue driving this plot forward? How is the dialogue revealing who this character is? That is the best way you can learn, honestly. If you say you're a filmmaker, a scriptwriter, you don't watch film, my dear, there's no point to being in this class. You must watch film. You must. If you want to be a scriptwriter, you must. It's compulsory. That's like I mean, that's your exam. You have to watch a film. You have to watch, don't film, films. You have to watch films. There's a reason why, especially when you hear films like Oscar nominated films that won AMA awards and all that. Please, what go and see, why did this film win an award? What is special about this film that made it win an award? Watch it. Watch it and you will learn so much. You watch so much films. That's the work of a scriptwriter. At some point, you even turn to a critique. You'll be watching film, you'll be critiquing it. That's why say you don't learn. No? That you cannot identify when a script is weak, when a story is weak. You be like, well, now who write this thing? You now know, if I can identify this, that means I have the tool to write. So even in dialogue, your dialogue has to be structured. That's where we talked about character Bible, character profile, character voice, all these things. First of all, you think of the concept of the film, you think of the plots, then you start breaking down the characters. Who is this person? What do they want? What do they want to achieve? How do they speak? How do they react? What is it about them? A conflict. I mean, conflict is the whole reason you're watching the film. Without conflict, I don't know what we'll be doing. I mean, think of you, even you come back from forever, you say, man, just waiting happen today. You're starting from the point of conflict, are you not? You went to work and on your way, two conductors were fighting. And you came back, you started to say, see, these two conductors, they were fighting. In fact, when we begin, I said, they talk say that waiting they cause that this one see the other person girlfriend, they come jam themselves. It's conflict, da. Then flip it for a script. So, waiting they happen. Okay. Okay. In bitter. Why in bitter? He is still in girlfriend. Why is still in girlfriend? Where the girlfriend they say? Who she be? You see how you're going back, looking for a backstory to help support that conflict. So give you a good understanding of the conflict. Now imagine going home to tell someone, I see two people they fight. Or you say, why did they fight? I don't know. I said, why you can't tell me say you see two people they fight when you don't know why they are fighting? What's the whole point of you telling me? What kind of information is that? Do you understand it now? So you need to understand it from that point. The subtext. Now, let's use just your regular life. You know, when your mom says, go and bring me a cup of water, and you go and bring a cup of water, and then you say, Mommy, where will I keep it? And she looks at you, keep it on my head. There is a subtext to that, keep it on my head. Even if she doesn't, if she looks at you and continues what she's watching, there's a subtext to her look. She's asking herself how she gave birth to a stupid child. How? Keep it on her head is, are you brainless? Like, don't you have sense? You don't have common sense to know that someone told you to bring water and you come and hand it over to them and asking where I should keep it. So you have to think of that subtext. What is being said, but is not being said loudly? What is being said, but not is it's not coming out loud, it's not on the nose for the audience to understand. Is that what is contradicted by action? And sometimes a subtext can, it could. I think there was an example that we gave here where it did. You know, yeah, we had an example where we saw nice shoes. Person said nice shoes. I mean, probably the person even picked up the shoes, nice shoes. Any person looking at the person from outside would think she's admiring a shoe. But behind that nice shoes, there is a subtext like, this shoe is ugly. But the way she says, nice shoes, yeah, are you complimenting me or what? And most times people tend to get it, really. I think even in our personal lives, you have that where people say things and you hear the subtext. Sometimes the conflict is now, are you trying to say that I am this? I did not say that though. But that's what you're trying to imply now. Did you hear me say it? But that's what you're trying to imply now. So you hear that subtext always coming up. It's in our everyday conversation. It's in our everyday dealings with people. How does the character's voice differentiate from others? It's simple. The character Bible. You have to define what this person wants. Who is this person? What do they want? If you're going to create a character, like we use, for example, we said, okay, for those of you who have watched something like I've forgotten the name again. I'm watching this comedy, Big Bang Theory. I always use Sheldon as that character. If you sit down and analyze how Sheldon as a character was created, he's a neurotic character. Everything about him is so annoying. But at the same time, when you see the innocence between his actions, you feel sorry for him because you know that it's just his genetic makeup that is making him who he is. So he's neurotic, he's afraid of germs, he has a special seat, he doesn't like his friends knocking on the door. He doesn't like, he has his wants, he has his needs. And this affects the way he interacts with other people, the way he talks, because he's a scientist. You get to see the words he uses. You know, he's always eager to let you know his specialty in science. He's always eager to let you know, and he uses those words. Then you have the other character who is Indian. And you can even see, even the accent alone shows you that this one is is not is an immigrant. He's an immigrant that lives there, that came to study there. And because he's an immigrant, you can see how socially awkward he is because he comes from a different culture. And he can't even talk to women in America. He finds it hard talking to women. It's over time that we saw his character arc from Whenever he wants to talk to you, if he can't even talk, he just puts his head down. Over time, we also even realize that for him to even talk to a woman, he has to be drunk. Until one day he was talking to a woman and everybody told him, "Do you realize you're not drunk?" That was a major character arc. We saw a shift from a character who couldn't talk to women and could only talk to women when drunk to a character who had the confidence to talk to women. And from then on, we had this character that could talk to women. So when you watch films, you have to dissect each character. Don't make the mistake of just focusing on only the antagonist, the protagonist, to the actor and the boys. Also look at the supporting characters because you understand what each person contributes. Remember that they are there to support the protagonists. They are there to support the protagonists. Then you also have supporting characters there to support the antagonists. It's a world that has to revolve around. So you're thinking of let's say, world building. And who is this world going to revolve around? Who are the characters going to revolve around? And those characters, are they going to also have people revolving around them? Once you understand it that way, it's easy to understand character voice, tone, vocabulary, and all that. So I hope someone said, am I missing this? Treatment of a story is what you write, when you've come up with your concepts, your plots, you sit down and do a treatment. It helps you understand your plot lines, it helps you understand your scenes, it helps you understand the characters that are going to be involved. It's at this point that you know what should be changed, what should not be changed before you start writing, putting in the dialogue and start formatting your story. Hmm? Okay. Yes. Okay. Like I have this character Bible that was written by original Jumbo 663. The character's name is Francis. The age is 24. Background, poor, humble background. The goal will need to be the best athlete in the world, but is afraid of failing. And there's a fear of doubt holding him back from his full potential. So you can imagine this character. This is just a basic character Bible. Now, when you're going to be designing this person's vocabulary, the way the person sounds, the person's voice, the person's sound, even the supporting characters and all that, you realize that his youth is 24. He's not going to be sounding like a 60-year-old man. He comes from a poor, humble background, so he's going to have a lot of insecurities. Then, wanting to be the best athlete but afraid of failing. This means he's going to be kind of obnoxious in his own way. And fear of doubt is holding him back. So you look at these things and say, what are the key language? What are the key things that I'm going to use to show this character perfectly so that everyone gets to understand, and relate to this character. Remember, everything is about relating. If your audience cannot relate to this person, then it becomes a very big problem because they feel out of touch and you don't want your audience feeling out of touch. Sure. Okay, and we have here again from Chisom Pascaline, 808, 8808. We have a character that she named George, age 30, background from a well-behaved background, goal to stop corruption, need, justice, main fear, not succeeding, conflict, short-tempered, stake his life. So we have this character here, conflict, short-tempered. This is a flaw, actually. One of the flaws, short-tempered. So how is this temper going to contribute to this character's quest for justice. That means this person is going to be very an impatient person. Let's start with short-tempered people can be very impatient. So will that impatience make them take stupid actions? Will it jeopardize their fights? Will their impatience jeopardize their fights? What would it cost them? So you have to think of it this way. Because when you think of a character, if someone is generous, if someone you say this person's character strength is generosity, can that generosity be weaponized? You get? Can that generosity be weaponized by others? So if someone is generous, what the opposite? What other character can be an antithesis of that generosity? This person is generous, but at the same time, what? You have to find out so that it balances very well. All right. So far I have no other question. And I want to thank you. So once again, my name is Adachku Ondiwe, and it's been wonderful having you guys and sitting through this class. And I'm happy that you're all participating. And I hope and pray that you guys take this serious. Please watch more films, analyze scripts, critique films, and see how it will make you a better writer. And please keep writing. Keep writing. It's like I said, it's muscle. You have to keep building it. If you don't build it, you lose it. It's as simple as that. You can start with stage plays and graduate into that. Anyhow you want to start, but write. Just keep writing. And the sky will be a limit. So, in the absence of any other question, thank you so much. And I look forward to hearing that, reading more of your scripts and hearing that some of you have won AMA awards or AFRIF. It should be a heartwarming thing. So thank you very much and have a wonderful evening. People didn't clap for me today. You are just telling me you're doing well, you're doing well, you're doing well. Wow. People don't know that your claps are like my booster. Anyway, thank you very much and have a wonderful evening and take care. Mm. Mm. And then, men. Eh? Emechagum.